What's up, everybody? Sacrificing my time of sleep to get to you and just commentating this set. Now, as you might know, I've been gone for a while, so it occurred to me how I didn't really give the previous players from last match a proper introduction. Which is disappointing, I guess, but I have been living under a rock, and I just decided to try and do some due diligence. And so, trying, again, underlined, Vanny last year was the winner, okay, of the GSC Invitational. So, they decisively won grand finals. They were on the loser's side and won 4 straight games, 2 sets. They managed to reset in a best of 3, and then win again in another best of 3 without dropping a game. And so right now in this tournament, he's in the loser's bracket. I didn't do him due diligence, but yeah. So you can go check that match out yesterday, the video I uploaded. And it's funny because the player he faced in grand finals last year, we're seeing right now, Underlying. So Underlying made it all the way to grand finals without losing a set, which is pretty interesting. He also won SPL, just saying. Very solid player. I am familiar. I like how they play. And on the other side, we have Groudon, who, unfortunately, I do not know. But I'll DM them, and maybe I'll just write something down here. Okay. This is round 1 of the whole tournament, so yeah. Best of 3, you know the usual. We got Lax on Lax. So, Critique Jazz. I love the reference to, at least I think that's some reference to some YouTube playlist. Okay, so we got a Lovely Kiss Lax lead. That's pretty interesting. So, I don't have anything, like, any notes on this. Lovely Kiss Lax is nice in general as a lead, but in general it's nice. I think putting it in the lead position has the benefit of you not having to switch into a Zapdos, which could be awkward because you lose you come in at 60%, you curse, you rest, and you're already inefficient. So leading is nice, but the question is, do you want to start right away with that LK? And the Lovely Kiss would probably want to target something like a Tyranitar, a Golem, a Steelix, a Gengar. It's a slow lead, but it is a sleep lead after all. So we do see a Critique Jazz. Groudon has a Sleep Talk Curse Lax, so it's kind of dangerous for Underlying right now. Now, oh, whoopsies. My finger slipped there. It's a little bit dangerous though, because it's a toss-up, right? Snorlax interactions are very interesting because once it escalates, you begin to ask yourself, okay, things can either go terribly, they can go greatly, or you can lose something and you have an answer in the back. So depending on how you see this scenario, you can interpret what the players might be able to do, what happens if their Snorlax dies, and what they can do if they have a Steelix, a Tyranitar, a Golem. Now, logic would have it that every single team that exists has at least one answer to Snorlax. Okay? So why is Underlying staying in? Underlying is staying in the hopes, at least this is one, I don't know if this is the definitive answer, in the hopes that if he continues to damage the Snorlax while it's using Sleep Talk, okay, two things could happen. The Snorlax could pick Curse twice, which would put it in a bad spot, because then it has to, it can't wake up, okay? It's under the effect of Lovely Kiss. So Groudon, the player, Ecruteak Jazz, we're just, from here on out, we're going to call him Ecruteak Jazz. He doesn't have control over his Snorlax right now. Okay, so if it uses Curse, it's eventually going to get too slow. Yes, it will get bulkier, but it will get too slow, and Underlying can continue to attack it. Okay, so it could be, from here, a 3-hit KO. Okay? That's if the Snorlax doesn't click Double Edge itself. In the other case, it's not great for Underlying to lose his Snorlax, but if he can take out the opposing one, maybe that will leverage his team. Maybe he has a special attacker. So Snorlax is annoying even for physical offense, but especially this set. The other thing is, again, other scenario. Underlying damages the Snorlax. Ecruteak Jazz uses Sleep Talk, and Sleep Talk calls upon Rest. Great! Now Underlying can switch out, okay, his own Snorlax, and he can use the Lovely Kiss again later. Okay, so if he gets a nice crit, okay, it's, he got the Double Edge, and as it turns out, okay, Ecruteak Jazz chose not to click Sleep Talk here, which I definitely overestimated. I assumed that if he had clicked Curse, it would have been a 3-hit KO. I might not be wrong, but now Ecruteak is in trouble. And as it turns out, Underlying wins the 50-50. The odds were in his favor, okay, because Ecruteak would have had to click Sleep Talk, okay, win the 50-50, click Sleep Talk. Sleep Talk would have had to choose Rest, and that was only a 33% chance. So give or take, we're talking about a 15% chance that the Snorlax survives. Okay, so in comes the Machamp, and Underlying has the perfect counter for this Machamp. Starmie. Okay. So, all right, and T-Wave. T-Wave getting a perfect target here, the uber fast Raikou. One of the fastest Mons in the game is now paralyzed, so it's now slower than this Snorlax. Snorlax comes in. Okay, not anymore. And Ecruteak is going to hope for a pair-up, but it doesn't come through. Underlying rests. Cloyster comes in, is going to take advantage of the spikes. So we see a Raikou Cloyster Machamp Monolax. That's very fascinating. I'm not really sure what I can say here, because my brain is thinking that there should be a Golem. But there is a Monolax. So a Monolax and a Machamp? Would there not be a pursuit user, like a Tyranitar? Okay. This Golem is this Cloyster is dangerous, and it takes out the Snorlax. Okay. Okay, there's a Zapdos. Okay, it's still making me think that there might be a Golem in the back. There doesn't have to be, but... And Fortress immediately explodes also. Okay. So we see that the Fortress explodes. The Zapdos is killed. Underlying meant to target Zapdos, clearly, right? There's a Starmie. The Starmie has paralysis. There's a Lovely Kiss Snorlax. So, in my opinion, right, Starmie offering support in the way that it does could mean that there is a Marowak. All right. Okay. Oh. Okay. Uncomfortable situation. Does he have a good switch-in? He has the perfect switch-in for this scenario, and I just love that underlying is used. He has a Marowak avatar, and he's using Marowak. That's just beautiful. So Marowak is going to slam this Machamp. He flammeth Peanut in the Cardor. So he brings in Starmie again. And there isn't really much that Ekritik can do. He clicks Cross Chop because he respects the threat of Marowak. Underlying is going to take advantage and spin. Okay. Now, this Machamp could be Rest Talk. We have, or I have at least, seen set, but no, it's not. So this Starmie effectively manages to take... Oh, hang on. I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. Okay. All right. Maybe this was the right play. Okay, so he let his Starmie die so that way the Marowak could come in. It's faster and perfect, right? You see a Tyranitar. The Tyranitar, it will not survive. So this Marowak is managing to sweep, and it did not even use Swords Dance once. So Ekritik forfeits. Okay, this was... okay, so there is the T-Tar, right? But it didn't have Pursuit. It was Screech. Okay, very interesting. Looks like that didn't matter in the end. Well, that just goes to show you. See, you take out the Snorlax, right? And everything falls apart. Sometimes. Sometimes no. I would say the deciding play was... not using Tyranitar, Cloyster, and Machamp more strategically. Machamp could have come in, threatened that Snorlax, go to Cloyster, you spike, you go to T-Tar, you Screech, and you play around. But Ekritik didn't do that, and so it was an avalanche. A 23-turn game is very, very fast for GSC standards. Very fast. Okay. Best of 3. Okay, so Raikou lead and the same Cursed Snorlax from Ekritik. Okay, underlying reveals Misdreavus. Okay, so this... It looks like it's likely going to be a Misdreavus stall with Starmie. Okay. Misdreavus is your spin blocker. Skarmory needs to be able to check Snorlax. So you always want to scout for a Fire Blast like Underlying is doing. Very diligent play. Good on him to not stay in and just Toxic. He brings in Starmie. There's the Zapdos. Okay, so the team is more or less revealed. And we see Starmie has Substitute. Why Substitute? There's 2 reasons why it could be that. It could be Rapid Spin plus Substitute. That allows you to avoid Toxic. And you can 1v1 the Fortress. You can kind of annoy Cloyster a little bit. You can deal a little bit of damage. It's a good way to block things and just also make Zapdos waste Thunder. So if you're using Stall, this is beneficial. If it's instead a Nightmare sub Starmie, then the intention is to cripple teams that over-rely on Zapdos for the Sleep Talk. So many physical offensive teams where Snorlax doesn't have rest and sleep talk. The Nightmare could be extremely powerful. Although it doesn't outright, it doesn't even 4-hit KO the Snorlax, but with the Nightmare, when timed correctly, it can actually make the Snorlax run out of PP, and it can be very dangerous. So even Raikou can have trouble against that Starmie set. Okay, so the Raikou came in on the Zapdos. It's the obvious check. It's the obvious answer. In comes Forretress. In comes Cloyster. Wow, okay. All right, Ecruteak switched in his Cloyster on a turn with Raikou, so that's very interesting. He knows that the Raikou doesn't exactly want to stay in on Snorlax, but you never know. A Raikou could stay in, so that was a very aggressive switch. Whereas underlying switching to Forretress on a Snorlax is much safer. The Toxic misses, so now this is a bit tricky. If I'm underlying, I want to prioritize my spikes, okay? I know my opponent 99% does not have a rapid spinner. So I'm going to click spikes, forget about the rest. Or I switch out. I wouldn't want to use rapid spin here. I don't want to click toxic a second time. Because, or maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I do. Oh, sorry. He clicked spikes on the other turn. Okay, I my bad. I apologize. I missequenced the turns because when I pause, I see something, but I didn't realize I was already in the following turn. Okay, my bad. Whatever. Life goes on. Okay, so he does get the toxic, okay? So just ignore what I said. Protect. Protect is really nice. Protect, allowing underlying to essentially just regain HP, okay? And, ooh, wow, nice. Nice prediction there. Would I say that was a prediction? Could he not have just clicked Surf a second time? Yeah, no, that's not a prediction. That was just a fortunate choice. Probably he went to Misdreavus because the Misdreavus can handle the Cloyster, which would mean that the Misdreavus might have Thunder, and it might have Toxic. It might be a Rest Talk set. It might be a different set. But I feel like it has something to sort of handle certain versions. Oh, no. Okay, so the Misdreavus switches out, and it fucking dies. Okay. It got critical hit. Starmie uses Rapid Spin. Okay, we know that the Tyranitar doesn't have Crunch. Well, we know. We can assume it safely because it revealed Fire Blast. So this turn was safe. Zapdos comes in. This time Underlying wants to play a little more aggressive. He doesn't go to his Raikou. He goes to Snorlax. I like this because it's more powerful than Raikou. So if Ecruteak wants to make a switch, he has to take more damage. So he's going to make an aggressive switch to Machamp, but Underlying already goes to Skarmory, and we shouldn't assume that this Machamp also has Fire Blast. So Machamp is very interesting. Machamp, in this case, right, what Machamp wants to do is wall break, okay, in this particular matchup. It can use Curse, and at +1, with a critical hit, it can one-hit KO Skarmory. However, if it doesn't have a boost, then it can't. Drill Peck is extremely nice versus Machamp. As you saw, it did 51%. Probably Ecruteak is desperate right now, so... I don't know if he should have done that, but he went for it. The Exeggutor is extremely dangerous. And as we see, Ecruteak has Stun Spore. He goes for a Psychic. Okay. Snorlax is fully paralyzed, and it could explode any turn. The Stun Spore obviously serves the purpose of slowing down Pokemon that might switch into it, and could enable Machamp further. I think we already saw Machamp and we're seeing it again. So, okay, Sleep Talk, and it flattens the Machamp. All right, that's very bad for Ekritik. Now Underlying can play relatively passively. I say relatively because we don't know what the fourth move on this Snorlax is just yet. We don't know. It could be anything. It might be Monolax. All right. Okay, so this team looks like a smaller variation of the previous one. We saw Machamp, we saw T-Tar, but this time it is Pursuit. Raikou. See, now, like we see Raikou, we're going to see Raikou come in more often against Zapdos. Skarmory is going to come in more often against Snorlax. We're not going to see fancy plays here. The ball is in Underlying's court. He has Curse. He has Drill Peck. So the Skarmory can become more threatening. And Underlying can even force switches. There's spikes, okay? The Snorlax is not going to get through this Skarmory. Rest. Okay. I can't say I agree with the play of Machamp, especially if he has a paralysis executor. It looks like he got a little bit desperate. Whoops. Especially because he had a healthy Tyranitar. So he didn't even try to phase the Snorlax. I believe that's what got the Machamp killed, and that was a very powerful win condition. He needed the Skarmory to go down. Without Skarmory, Underlying could be very in a lot of trouble versus Ekritik Snorlax. But now it's not as dangerous, the situation here. So yes, there's an explosion, but again, now you're exploding and you are at a deficit. So this could work, this could help, but it's also dangerous. So if I'm Underlying, I switch to Raikou every day of the week. Okay. It's not over, but okay, he uses Rest. There are 11 Thunders. What are you going to do, my friend? You stay in with Zapdos? If you run out of Thunders, you can't kill the other 3 Mons. You can't kill Starmie. You can't kill Skarmory. That'll be very annoying. So, okay, in comes the Tyranitar. This is what we want to see. All right. Yeah, but the Fire Blast isn't going to cut it. The Starmie comes in. It's a safe switch. This is the power of Stall. When Stall can come in easily on your opponent's teams because of how predictable it is, your offense isn't very strong anymore. And so the game can drag on for a long time. Again, Underlying is playing very, very well. He was the runner-up in last year's tournament, after all. So, should keep that in mind. Okay, so we see an Earthquake, and that would explain why he did not phase the Snorlax. So, interesting, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this particular set of Tyranitar. Okay, well, it seems a little bit lackluster. If I'm him, I would want at least Crunch there. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Or T-Bolt. But, Earthquake just doesn't really add any value. I mean, it did kill the Misdreavus, but then you lost the Cloyster, so I don't know. I'm not really sure what to say. I would have put like a dynamic punch or something. I don't know. Screech. That's not a flavor. This isn't a flavor of all-out attacker that I like particularly. I'm gonna be honest. All right. I am going to speed up in a moment. Get your kicks on Route 66. Okay, switch. Yeah, Skarmory's gonna switch here. Yeah, it goes to Raikou. Critique makes a double switch to Tyranitar. Okay, Pursuit on the sleeping Raikou. Nice. Aggressive play. I like it. Yeah. Right, okay. More aggressive. Yeah, okay. T-Tar. T-Tar. Okay. All right. I mean, he's making the right moves with what he has. Even if I judge the team, I can't say that it's bad. Like, it seems all right to me. Are we going to see another explosion? Oh, no. Wait, no. No, we're not. Forget I said that. Okay, perfect use of Protect there. Wasting the Thunder. Zapdos must have used half its PP at this point. Tyranitar is very dangerous versus Raikou, though. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah. Tyranitar's taking damage. It's going to hurt the Starmie. Okay, so that is another way. If Tyranitar can get in on the Raikou more often and correctly predict the move, click a Pursuit every now and then the Raikou will be in a position where it has to click Rest. And you can click Earthquake and you deal 60 damage to the Raikou. So if that happens, then Zapdos wins. So yeah, no, this game is not over actually. Now that I think about it, okay, Raikou coming in, but if I'm underlying, I attack. Yeah, I don't want to let that Tyranitar live, and he makes a winning play. I would say that is a winning play. Yeah, and Ekritik forfeits. All right. Very, very clean. We're going to watch that again. That turn was clean. So this is nice because you have this position, right? I am underlying. I know I can play passively. I can win, all right? I can drag this game out forever, right? I know what Ekritik wants, right? Zero-sum game, right? Game theory. So logic would have it that if I want to drag this game out, right, I have to click Rest on this following turn, or something. I don't know, but and so what has happened until now is that Ekritik had started playing aggressively. I'm underlying. I know this. Okay, so I attack right here. And then I can always just click Rest after or switch out. That's what I'll do. Because if it does land, I win. So, yes, I can win if I drag this game out, but I also can lose. If I do a different move right now, I will win. The difference between the two options. And that's exactly what he does. And there it is. The paralysis is just an added effect. Okay. Well, that was very nice to watch. Hope you guys liked it.